Welcome everyone to the Canarian International Meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Mossy and I am an alcoholic.
And my name is Mick and I am also an alcoholic. And we are serving as your secretary today.
Please join us for a moment's silence to remember the still suffering alcoholic both inside and outside this meeting. The preamble is going to be read by Carol. And there you go, Carol.
Thank you. I'm Carol and I'm an alcoholic. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is an honest desire to stop drinking. AA has no dues or fees. It is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Thank you.
Thank you. And a very warm welcome goes out to any newcomers and anyone returning to Alcoholics Anonymous. There you go. If anybody is celebrating a birthday, let the host know and we'll celebrate together just before the sharing part of the meeting.
The chat is now disabled until the end of the meeting, except for the meeting host. If you feel the meeting security is at risk at any time during the meeting, please private message one of the co-hosts that they can check it out. We also suggest if you are mindful about your sharing private information in the open chat pre and post meeting. And perhaps also consider sharing your email address in the first instance instead of the phone number.
And our speaker today is Jan from Richmond. Her sobriety date, if my memory serves me correctly, is the 21st of January, 1988, which makes her an old-timer. And Jan, you speak for as long as you like. There'll be no one giving you a 30-second or a 3-minute reminder. Take it away, Jan.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Hello, everyone. My name's Jan, and I'm a grateful alcoholic. I don't like doing chairs, but I do have a sense of responsibility to AA and my higher power. I've never said no when I can possibly do any shares, anything at all. The only time is if I'm ill or whatever. You know, but I will tell you a little brief history about myself. Without boring you to tears, you know, which I could if I wanted to, you know. But the fact is, I was brought up in Yorkshire, and I left there when I was 25. But all I thought about was actually dancing, and working, and I worked hard, hard, and then I met the love of my life. Sorry, Marianne. Met the love of my life, and he was an Irishman, and I was 16 and 17 years old, and I fell in love with him, or what I thought was love, and we were quite good friends. He went off to Australia for a year, so I just worked hard and danced hard, and I never drank. I never touched a drop of alcohol, and then he came back and we got engaged, and his mother and father and family said no because he was Catholic. And then I was a Methodist, but they said I was a Protestant. Well, I'd never heard of that word, you know, in the early 50s. I'd never heard of Protestant. I thought, I wonder what that means, you know, because and I thought they meant I was a prostitute, you see. And I went home to my mother and I said, do you know what they said in Ireland? And they said, that's what I was. I'll not mention the word again. And then she said, I don't think so. But then I went on and he left me. And he left me, but at 18 years old. We went to Scotland. And there I had my first drink. It was whiskey. It was a Scottish whiskey in the small bottle, strong as hell. And I drank it from the bottle because they never gave me a glass. They never gave me a glass and I drank the whole lot. I thought that's what you did. And I was so drunk They carried me to the dance, they carried me home, and then I was sick for the whole night. And at 11 o'clock, they woke me up, and I didn't know where I was. But that wasn't, you know, I don't know why I went to drink, because I'd signed a pledge when I was 11 years old. But it didn't work, did it? So basically, I then went to work at the RAF station and met and married my husband in 10 months. And he was a nice man, but he was a money motivated. He collected cars, he collected anything he can. I think he was a Del boy, really. You know, if you can imagine what Del boy's like, that was my husband. You know, it'd sell your teeth if you could get them out. You know, but he was from a middle class family, and he didn't really need that kind of money, because I worked for him. I worked hard, and then we had a 23 years marriage, and lived in the RAF. The RAF was our home for 18 years. And I didn't realise why we were moving everybody else only moved every 3 years. We moved every year. And I believe because he was a womanizer, some women would catch hold of him, and then he wanted to disappear. So we all had to go with him. And it was quite a nightmare. But because I was very naive and brainwashed, I didn't realise there was anything wrong. I never asked for anything, because living with a family of a dysfunctional family in Yorkshire, you know, all I did was watch my dad's feet, and I knew where they was going, and I was very hyper-vigilant. I used to watch everything. I still do, by the way. I watch you all on this programme if I'm on there, because I watch your behaviour, if you're behaving, of course, or not behaving. It's none of my business, really. And I knew what everybody was going to say the next. I knew what everything was going to happen. And I looked at everybody's shoes. Don't know why that was. I think it was because I thought, because of being in a telepathic home, nobody told me anything. I didn't ask any questions because I didn't know any. Then after 18 years, Jeff said he wanted to leave me, and we had a bungalow in Southampton. We'd been around to Cyprus for 3 years. We'd been to Germany. We'd been everywhere, but only for short postings. And he left me. He left me, actually. He took David to my mother's in Yorkshire, and I was left on my own. And he said to me, you can freewheel. Well, I had no idea what freewheeling meant. I wasn't as intelligent as I am now. Who's she kidding? You know, but I didn't know words. But I liked words, I liked writing, and I liked doing things. And I realised that freewheeling was taking things out of gear. Well, the only time I ever did it was when I was driving down in a car, and I wanted to save petrol, and I would take it out gear. But the fact is, I didn't know. Jeff got engaged to a 19-year-old wife, and I was still married to him. And I ended up homeless in Richmond. I'm going to rush on because all the rest of it is my history. And as I said, it's been a long time since there, because there's no one there left in Yorkshire. And believe it or not, I just honestly, I couldn't believe that in those few years in 1980, I got a job in the bank, and all I could think of with the bank was to buy a house and to live, because I was homeless. I dare not tell my mother. My mother just accepted that Jeff would be away on whatever in the RAF, because you were never home. They were never home if he wasn't, you know. So basically, there I was. I enjoyed Jeff's company, but I didn't know anything about love. Love was something completely different to what I was aware of. And, excuse me, and I didn't know what to do. I just sort of, you know, and when I came to Richmond, I had no identity. I had nowhere to go. I had nowhere to live. and I daren't ask for anything. I went to live with his mother. Gosh, she was a raving alcoholic. They had, the first thing she asked me for a drink in the morning, she said, would you like a drink? I was Janice. I said, yeah, please. She gave me a bottle of beer. I said, that's not tea and coffee. You know, I was still in that kind of mode, but they were really, really heavy drinkers. And I said, I couldn't cope. So I went back to Aylesbury and I asked Jeff if he would have me back. And he said, no, I've made a new life for myself. And I was devastated, but I didn't feel very good about I had no identity. I had no self-worth. I was just there. And the only thing that gave me that self-worth was those 4 years or 4 or 5 years of drinking solidly, daily. I worked hard, I played hard, and I was very, very successful to a certain day until the drink took me. I took the drink took me, and there I was. I was absolutely messed up, and I knew, but I used to love the pubs. You know, the pubs in London are amazing. You know, there's nightclubs and pubs, and I never thought there was anything wrong with doing that. But I didn't realise I was trying to keep up with everybody else. I was trying to keep up with drinking. I thought, if he had 20 pints tonight, I think I'll have 20. Well, I mean, my body wouldn't have taken 20 pints. I was flat out on my back. But I learned to drink like that. But as I said, whatever it is, it happened. And I still didn't feel good about myself. I didn't have any identity. And I ended up one day, I was actually working for the Priory in Roehampton with the doctors there, and I became his secretary. He was doing anorexia and the other, whatever it is, bulimia. And I worked there for 3 months, and it was brilliant because the drinking ceased a little bit because they got brilliant food free. Anything that was free in those days, I used to love. And, you know, and I went to work for him. One day he said to me, would you like to work here permanently, Janice? And we'll offer you this amount of money. Well, that was £2,000 I was getting as a temp. I said, you can stick that. I should not have said that to a doctor, but I told him where to stick it, you know, but I'm not going to repeat that. And he told to me, it's a bit like Alan Sugar, get out. You're sacked. And I went. And then I ended up sort of crying and thinking I've made a mess of my life. And I met a big guy and my next door neighbour, Martha, Bruce and Martha. He was a Canadian. She was my next door neighbour. And they 12-stepped me. I didn't know that was 12-stepping because I was walking in the pavements so that I could get home straight without falling and holding on to the rails. And they came and gave me a where to find. Well, this where to find, I mean, I wear glasses, you see, and I can't see very well, you know, when you can't see the words are, you know, too small. And I thought, they've got a cheek. They're the alcoholics, not me. I didn't know they drank, but I would always blame someone else. And eventually they said, come to the meeting on Friday night. Well, I'm going to tell you what this meeting was like on Friday night. It was a small room in the college. I tell you what, the smoke was halfway up the walls. Everybody in that room was smoking but me, and I was the one that was criticising. And I'd gone there, you know, and I told everybody at work that I was going dancing. But I went there and I heard this American serviceman talking about his life. And I thought, he knows something about me. He knows something about me. You see, I don't think there's any coincidence. I think when you ask for help from God, God will come and bring you whatever it is. And he came. So there was my journey in there, me counting how many cigarettes the bloke smoked at the side of me, not listening, only a few words now and again. And, you know, I said, you're smoking too much. She says, mind your own business. I thought, well, I should mind my own business, but I couldn't mind my own business. And we went on like that. But I said, I bet they're going to ask you for money. I bet it's a bit like the church, this is, you know. I was always judging. And I went home that night. And I couldn't wait for the following week to come to go back to the same meeting, you know, swim through the smoke and everything. And people got hold of me that night and said to me, you know, go to some more meetings, Jan, otherwise you'll go back drinking. And I believe they were right now. I didn't at the time. And we went on weekend. I was talking about today with a friend about our East Sheen meeting was step 3. It was step 3. And I remember, because I knew the step 3 prayer, because I thought it was much better than the other prayer. And I stood up in that little room with all these old timers that, you know, smoke like troopers, of course, you know, they do. But I thought I better mind my own business, so I'm going to be very unpopular here. And what happened? Albert said to me, sit down. You don't know nothing. I thought, who's he? Who does he think he is? Well, he'd been sober a long time. Then the thing is, I was petrified of the old timers, and I was determined I would not drink on anything that had happened to me, because I do believe I promised God. I didn't promise a human being that I would never drink again if someone saved me. And I knew that something had saved me from myself, because I was dying inside. I was completely dying, and I didn't know how to behave, didn't know how to do anything. So I thought, what I'll do, I'll try and get Jeff back, my ex-husband, although he wasn't my ex-husband at that time. I asked him if he'd come back to me. And I said, Jeff, I've joined AA. He said, good, then I don't have to fix your car anymore. I thought, that's another cheeky bugger, isn't it? I could not believe the way my head was thinking. And I went on and I went to the meetings every Sunday. We went every Sunday to the meetings, and they were really, really strong. And I got a sponsor, but that was like having a female Hitler. I'm sorry to say about that, but she was tough. But I didn't like the way she was talking to me, so I sacked her. I went on to the next one, and she was as bad, but they wanted me to do some typing for them, so I did, because they paid me for it. Because I was running my own business by then, sort of. And then I went on to, and then I found the most wonderful lady in this world, because I said to God that night, will you give me a nice lady, but not one that hugs. I don't want one that hugs, because they bought me a hug book in East Sheen meeting and said, because I wouldn't hug anybody. I don't know why this hugging bit was my Achilles heel. But so what happened, I met Phoebe. Phoebe was one of the nicest ladies that I could ever meet. She had a big family. She had an awful lot of things happen to her, more than I'd ever experienced. But she said, every time I used to talk to her in a negative way, she would say, come here and give me a hug. I said, Phoebe, will you stop hugging me? You know I don't like hugging. And I'm still a little bit like that, but you're all throwing me out. You're throwing me out in this beautiful meeting in the morning, because that's 4 years ago. I joined it. But prior to that, we went on a long journey, and there were some beautiful old timers, but they was tough, because we didn't have what the newcomers and the newbies have today. They have a phone, they have internet, they have all the things. We had to queue up outside of a red phone box, and if the person before us, you know, we missed our call from the sponsor or whatever, because they wouldn't get out the phone box. I had no phone. The only time I had a mobile in those days was like a brick. I couldn't put it in my pocket. I would have died, you know. But the fact is, we had to do it the hard way. we had to do it the big book way because there was no other way for us. And I do believe that has given me a good standing in AA, that I could actually understand what the differences are. And it must be hard for the newbies to have it all at the fingertips, because basically, but there's one thing I'm saying, and I don't think I'm going to be liked about this actually. I will not slip. I don't believe in slipping. I don't believe in all that, because I'd made a promise never to drink again to God. I then began to like God a bit better than I did. He was doing a bit nice things for me, which he hadn't done before. But in all that time, I have never, ever wanted to drink. I mean, 7 years ago, as you all know, I lost my boy. And that was the world's worst. I'd already lost Bruce, who was my mentor. He was gorgeous. He used to say to me, I love you, Mrs. K. I said, no, you don't, you're married. And the fact is, he was married, but I had no idea what unconditional love was. Unconditional love is something I'd never experienced in all my life. It was the most beautiful feeling that nobody wanted something from you, because as soon as anybody asked me to do anything, they wanted more. And that's the people I used to meet an awful lot of negative people, and I was very much a people pleaser. You may not think I'd done the steps, but I have. I have done the steps all the way through, because Phoebe did it in such a nice way. It wasn't even painful. And every time I got it wrong, she'd give me a hug. I said, Phoebe, would you do me a favour? And she said, what? I said, don't hug me. Just nod your head. That's enough. And she did. But she still hugged me. She was a hugger. But the fact is, why on earth? I think now I'd love to be hugged. Talk about putting the wrong thing in the wrong time. But I just wanted to say that I could not believe I was so lucky to find her. She came from Ireland. She had 9 children. One of her sons was murdered in Ealing, and she never drank. And I remember sitting on her bed when she was partially dying. I had no idea she was dying, but she was in bed, and we'd gone to see her with this other lady. And she was a smoker, I wasn't. So I sat on Phoebe's bed eating chocolates and eating her grapes, because I loved it. I loved helping myself every time I visited you in a hospital. I think I've got a compulsion there. But I don't drink, I don't smoke, and I go to regular meetings. But that day when I said to her, she's laying out in the bed, and I said, where's Teresa gone? She said, mind your own business. You've come to see me. And people used to talk to us like that. But I believe that's straight talking. She doesn't go round the houses or pretend this and pretend that. She tells us straight. And that's how it is. So she took me through to the steps. And then I think I was becoming a bit older than I was. And I decided when I retired, I would go and live in Barbados, because I'd had enough of England. And I went off to live in Barbados. Well, they used to call me Bajan Jan, because I took my bicycle. I took a big barrel, blue barrel, which people, all the black people take a barrel. You've got to have a barrel. If you don't have a barrel, because you can put everything in and it goes by sea. And I took that. And I had an exchange from my best friend Pam's sister. She was at the university in London, so she took my property and I took hers, and it was lovely. And I decided that I would go out and work with children with learning difficulties, because I understood children with learning difficulties. I understood people that couldn't get their words out at the right time. I was understanding the children that was so scared to live because of their lack of knowledge, as they call it. Nothing to do with knowledge. It's just they didn't have the opportunities we had. But then what happened? it took me 2 years to get residency, and then the immigration cancelled it. That's a bit boring because I can't give you any serious, but the fact is, I used to get on my bicycle at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I used to go out with all the ladies who's got hats on their head, you know, these plastic hats. And we used to sit, I used to sit round them. They used to say, she's coming again, she's here. And there I was in the middle of the sea with these ladies, I hadn't got a clue who they were, eating their fruit. None of us swam, not one of us swam. And I would ride my bike. Then I would go to the meeting, which was the mustard seed meeting in Barbados. Beautiful, beautiful. And I went every day. And I started to do the steps again. I started to do them probably a different way, but still the same. And it was good. It gave me something to keep in my mind. And then I ran out of money. And that was 62 years old when I did that. And I came back to England because I couldn't afford to live in Barbados anymore. And I was sad because I'd met some beautiful people. As I said, I had a sponsor there who was nearly 40 years sober now. It was beautiful. Oh, even more than 40 years. And she was beautiful. And we used to pop around and we used to go dancing in Barbados, and I thought this life is wonderful. But then I came back to reality when I came back to England. And then things started to happen. Bruce died, Pam died, and then David died. And then I said, I've given up. I have completely given up. But the one thing I didn't do, I told God, I will not drink. I promised you, and I will not drink. And I didn't. Don't know where that strength came from. But I had to tell you, my own family had died. My brothers and my mum and dad had died in the 80s, before I came into the fellowship. So my mother's last words to me when she was dying, which still didn't know she was dying. I don't know what's wrong with me sometimes. She said to me, "Oh no, not you, because she'd lived in an alcoholic home. And the fact is, and then I came home and I never saw her again. But I was glad to see her the day, 2 or 3 days before she died. She died on Maundy Thursday, and just before Easter. And that was it. But the fact is that I've done my best, and unfortunately, and without boring you all to death, I honestly had a nastiest fall last November. And I wasn't treated good at a particular hospital. I was put in the dementia ward, and I thought, and nobody spoke to me, because I can see the dementia people, and I think it's so tragic to see you lose your mind. And I think if I'd have drank more and more and more and more and just kept drinking, I'd either be like that or dead. And that was what I feel. I feel alcohol to me is poison, and that's how I look at it. I do feel sorry for the people who slip and slide around, because I tell you something, I wish I'd got patience with you. I wish I had. But unfortunately, I'm being honest with you, I don't. I think you should have a big slap off everybody, because that's what the old timers would give us, a slap. If we didn't behave ourselves, we got a slap. I love it. I didn't want a slap, and I thought, I'm never going to talk to them again. These are cruel, but they weren't. They were giving us a message that is, and they were telling us, Jan, it is a killer illness. You have to be on the program. You have to stop thinking about, because you know something, I was always looking for a man to help me to get over this way of living on my own. I hate it, but I do it because there's no other choice. Because I will attract the nuts. I even sit next to one on the bus the other day, and I thought, oh God, why do I have to sit next to the nutty women and the nutty men? You know, and the ones who want to take you out, and there was a couple of weeks, and I'll leave you like this, and I apologise to Em. I apologise talking about men, because she said to me, "You've only been 3 minutes before you spoke about a man," because I like men. I do like men. I like the way they are. I don't want nothing out. I don't want nothing out of them, but the self, when you're self-supporting, you don't need anything. And if you've got a beautiful higher power, he will provide. And I do believe that for every newbie that's around, everybody who's learning the ropes of AA, just listen to learn to listen, because that's one of the chief things of outside world now. Nobody listens. And then last week, I was dehydrated so badly that I slipped again, but I went down like a sack of potatoes, and they put me back in the hospital. And I said, I'm not going. And they put me back in West Middlesex Hospital. I have never had such wonderful treatment in comparison to the other. And I had 2 doctors, I had scans, I had everything. And they found out, and they put me on drips. And that was it. So I have no complaint with the NHS, but I have with that one hospital. I better not in case they come back and get me, because I wrote to this hospital. And I said to them, I do not believe that you are the caring hospital that you possess to be. And I listed of what they were doing in that particular time I was in hospital, because I discharged myself in the end. And I got a sorry. So if that's all I'm going to get, a sorry is better than nothing, isn't it? So this time I'm here with a hospital bed, and it's electric. I can't believe it's electric. I hope they don't fly me up on the moon. And then everything I need from the NHS I have got this week. But I'm in terrible, terrible pain. And I've got these, and the government, believe it or not, I think the Prime Minister's put his hands in his pocket, because he gave me 5 days of free caring. That they come in and give me my breakfast. I know this has nothing to do with it, but it's living the life without a drink is what I believe in. Everybody can quote the steps, everybody can quote that, but to live life on life's terms is the hardest thing I believe I've ever accomplished. And I can do it, but I couldn't run after you, so sorry, don't run off, will you? And the thing is, what I feel I've had these 3 little girls come in every morning for 45 minutes, and they wash me, and I'm thinking, I'm not like that. I'm trying to hide, because I'm not very good at this exposing thing, that people do. I should stop watching TV and Gogglebox. And the fact is, I tell you, they are lovely. They are beautiful foreign girls, one from Gambia, one from Sierra Leone. And she was there this morning at 7:30, got me out of bed, shampooed me. Showered me and got my breakfast, washed up and left. Isn't that wonderful? And that is what the NHS has given to me. So never will I ever complain again. And I think mostly I'm drying up, because I'll tell you the only one thing I've done on Saturday night last week, my girlfriend bought all the clothes for me and all the different things. And I sent her a bunch of flowers today, and I put the wrong address on. And the bunch of flowers and the free box of chocolates went to somebody else's house. But as she looked at Facebook this afternoon, this woman said, I've just got some flowers and chocolate called Jan that you looked after when she was in hospital. Isn't that wonderful? Don't you not think, when you're feeling positive about yourself, positive people come. When you're feeling negative, you'll get them. You feel sorry for yourself, and I bet you'll get them by the busload. And I believe it or not, I am so very grateful that after 4 years ago, you brought me back, Canary brought me back to life, because I was drifting. I was going down the pan, as we Northerners say. I could not believe if anything else happened to me, and I'm not feeling sorry for myself. That is life. But it's all changed. It's all changed in the last few weeks because I allowed people into my life. So I'm not going to moan, because every time I meet a man, he wants to kiss me on my lips, and I'm not ready to be kissed on my lips at the moment. So there you are. I'll end there, Mossy, even if it's daft, it's wrong. You can always edit it, can't you, my lovely? Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. And no, it will not be edited. Oh, Jan, you're a beautiful lady and I love you to bits. I don't care what Mick the Parrot says. And for anyone new to this meeting, Mick the Parrot invited her to stay over and he put her in the bed. That's where he let her sleep for the night. Miserable old sod.
Jan, you've done a wonderful job. You had me in stitches all the time. Yeah, Mossy was making it sound like you slept in that bed. We only set it up, didn't we? Just for a laugh. Yeah. Jan, yeah, your story I identify so much, you know. And, you know, one thing I don't like about in AA is I get lots of women and they say, Mick, I love you. And then they quickly say, like a dad. I love this fellowship. Right then, Mr. Moss, it's up to you now.
Jan, thanks again for sharing for us. I just love listening to you. And take it away, Jan.
Thank you, everybody. That was really, really nice, and you made me feel better than I did before I started. Will you help me close the meeting with a serenity prayer using the word God as you do or do not understand? God,
Grant us
serenity for accept things we cannot change,
courage to change the wisdom
to know the difference. God bless you all.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you, Jan.
Thanks, Jan.
Bless you,
Jan.
God bless you.
Jan.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Courage. Thanks for
Carol.
coming.